Coming back at you with another video, and today we are starting a new series that I've decided to go with. So we are doing the Monday Mechanic. Now, what this is going to be is every Monday morning, I am going to jump on Car Mechanic Simulator, and I'm going to Twitch stream myself doing a job or two and then uploading to YouTube. So this is a new series for Twitch as well as YouTube. I'm going with the Monday mechanic as it'll only be Mondays uploaded. And so basically, yeah, it's going to be streamed on Twitch and then uploaded to YouTube. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to start off up here in my little lounge area of my mechanic shop, as you can see over there, the rest of the shop, right? Um and we're just gonna go down. We're gonna go over to the phone. We're gonna take a job, and we're gonna do the job. And that's pretty much it. We're just gonna work on a car. So let's see what we got here. Um, you know what? This one looks good. This Reno Piccolo Ecotech, which okay, what do we got here? The car does not start. The car's filters need replacing. Timing needs replacing. Repair all engine faults. Loud exhaust and gears keep slipping. So this one's actually going to be this one's going to give us a run for our money actually because it's got a lot to do. So that's the one we're going to take. Maybe the RX-7. No. Okay, we'll take this guy here. We're going to work on this guy cuz he's got a lot to do, so this is going to I think this will be for a good first episode as we're going to get to really dive into it. So, we're going to go over to our car here, and we're going to move it over to lift A. Come back. And now, we know there's issues with the engine, and wow, we can see those issues. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to run some tests on the car, and we're going to see what the issues are. So we're going to go into our examine tools. This car looks new enough like it would have an OBD port. Actually, a little trick here. Typically, in this game at least, because ODBs didn't come around until about 1996, I believe. However, in this game, what I have noticed is if the car has an ABS module and pump setup, so if the car has ABS, which would mean it has the pump and the module in the engine bay here, if it has these, typically it's got an OBD port for the examine tool. So that's the first thing we're gonna do. We're gonna use our OBD reader, and we're gonna see what that tells us. I had to use one of these on my car last week. My check engine light came on. Okay, so spark plugs, ignition coils, our thermostat, and our ABS module are all okay. It's the catalytic converter. So we know that the cat has to go. And now we already knew that there was an issue with the exhaust. So we know the cat's right there. That has to go. The front exhaust section already looking pretty bad too. So we know that's got to go as well. Same with the exhaust. Next thing we're going to do, though, is we're going to check the compression. We're going to use a compression tester, and we're going to check basically, this is going to let us know the state of the pistons, crankshaft, and the engine block. And I do this because the crankshaft is gone. So now I know that I got to take the whole engine out. Like, realistically, I don't have to take out the entire engine, but to get to the crankshaft, it is a lot easier to just pull the engine and take it apart on the engine stand, get the crankshaft, because the crankshaft is literally the first piece. Like, that's the first part that you would put into the engine block. So, like, when you're starting from scratch, you'd go engine block, crankshaft, pistons, engine head. That's basically the way it runs. So we have to disassemble the engine completely to get to the crankshaft. So in that sense, we're going to be pulling the engine right out just to make life a little easier for us. So now we know that we've got a catalytic converter, we've got a crankshaft, we've got a lot more. So let's just do the left. We're going to do the electronics meter. This will tell us like the battery and all the electronics and jazz like that. Okay, so our throttle, alternator, the rad fan housing and everything, and the battery's fine. It's the starter that's gone. So the starter is going to be right here in the back of the i3 at least. On an i4, the starter's usually on the front side of the engine, but on the i3, it's in the back. And it goes directly into the transmission. On every vehicle, the starter goes right into the transmission. This is what I find funny though, is this starter has to be removed from the engine bay, but the oil filter that's right beside it has to be taken underneath the car on the lifter. That doesn't make much sense to me personally, but who am I to complain? So now, the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check the fuel pressure as well. This is going to tell us our fuel filter, our fuel pump, and our fuel rails. I don't think this car has a fuel rail, though. Oh, no, it does, but the fuel rail is fine. So it's our fuel filter and our fuel pump. So now the fuel filter, we can see right back here. And the fuel pump is the piece that's right in the fuel tank at the back of the car down there. There's our fuel pump. So, there's nothing wrong with the tires. I can already look at them and tell you that, so there's no point in doing that test. So we're not going to waste time there. So we're just going to close that off. Now we're going to look at our car status. So the car does not start. We've figured out that's the starter. The filters need replacing. We already knew that. The timing needs replacing. We got to repair all the engine faults. So we've only figured out a few of the engine faults. We haven't even figured out all of them yet. So this is where dismantling the engine is going to come in to play. We know the loud exhaust parts. And now the gears keep slipping. So that's transmission related, which if you look right here, the transmission and the drive shaft are fine. So that tells me instantly the problem is with the clutch, flywheel, clutch pressure plate, and the clutch release bearing. It's those four parts within the transmission that need to be replaced. So let's start getting to work on this car. So now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to lift it. And we're going to lift it straight up. Actually, no, we're not. Because in order to get the engine out, we need to take the transmission off. And in order to get the transmission off, we first need to take off the starter. So we're going to do that first. Take off the starter. And we're also going to take off the exhaust manifold. Because we're going to have to get this front exhaust part, the front exhaust section out. But in order to take that off, we'd first have to take off the exhaust manifold. So now we are okay to do what we got to do. Now we're okay. So now we're going to go underneath. We're going to move our oil. We're going to go to our oil pan, and we're going to move that underneath the car. And we're going to drain the oil out of the oil tank here because we're going to have to open it up, and we don't want the oil falling all over us. Now we're going to move it back, and while we're under here, we're going to come to the back of the car first, and we're just going to pull out the fuel pump. Nice and simple. And then we're going to flip around, and we're going to pull the exhaust. So pull the front exhaust section out. And then pull the catalytic converter. Now we're going to have to take off the front tires. normally I would do this while the car's still, like, only on the first level up. Like, in real life, that would be a lot safer to do. Like, when you're doing it lower down, so you're just popping the tire off onto the floor. Whereas if you're taking the tire off all the way up here in real life, you're looking at doing a lot of damage to your back, possibly, because the tires are heavy. So, but we've taken that tire off. Now we're going to take out the front drive axle. Okay, and we're going to go over to the other side and take off the front right tire along with the right drive axle. Now we can take off the drive shaft and take out the gearbox, which is the transmission. And just like I said, it's the bearing, pressure plate, clutch, and flywheel that all need to be replaced. So we're going to pull all these off, because these have to come off anyways for the crankshaft. So we're just going to come off now. And that's it. So now, the other thing I like doing, though, because we know that the pistons have to come out, is I want to take off the oil pan. Now, I'm not very familiar with these inline threes, so I was unaware that in order to get the oil pan off, I first have to take off the serpentine belt and take off this idle roller. I was unaware about that. So now we're going to lift it back up and take the oil pan off. And the whole reason why I'm taking the oil pan off now is all to do with getting the pistons out easier when I'm on the stand, because it's a lot easier to take off these rod caps and crankshaft bearing caps from underneath the car on the lift like I am right now, where I can look straight up at it, as opposed to being on the engine stand, where it's incredibly hard to actually get a proper angle underneath the engine in order to get these on and off. So I just do that, take them off while they're on the lift, and now we can lower the car, go over, grab our engine crane, and we're going to move that to the car lift A. And now we can take the engine crane and we can pull out the engine. See? No more engine. Engine go bye-bye. Now we can come over to the engine stand and we can add that engine to the stand. Now it's a lot easier for us to dismantle. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're just going to start from the very top and we're just going to take it apart. So we're dismantling it piece by piece. You get the throttle, the intake manifold. And we're going to take out the fuel rail, the ignition coils. Zoom in a bit here. There we go. Take the spark plugs out too. Don't forget this ignition coil. Now we're going to take off the engine head cover. This is going to expose our camshafts. Oh, look at that. We got a camshaft. It's got a big thing too. So we're going to just take off these camshaft caps. We can't take the camshafts off yet. We got to first get into the timing parts and take off the cam gears. But I'm just going through and getting these tedious bits out of the way. I'll tell you right now, I'd much rather deal with this than deal with like an old school V8 OHV engine, just because like it's not like you got a V8, so you got 8 pistons, but each piston needs 2 valve push rods and 2 rocker arms. So you've got 16 valve push rods and rocker arms that got to be inserted individually, and it's just the biggest pain in the ass. So we're just gonna keep disassembling. This is where it gets kind of tedious, is taking it all apart to have to, fix it up and put it all back together again. But this is the fun part of it. One second here. Okay, from this angle, the timing cover, it looked like a mouse. Like that looks like a mouse. You got the eyes right there, the little snooter, and then the whiskers. That's a mouse. It's a little Mickey, a little Mickey cover, a little Mickey Mouse timing cover there. Okay, so keep disassembling or take off our oil filter. Now we can remove the cam gears, which should let us remove the cam shafts. And we're not going to be... Oh, wait, where's the thermostat? I thought we had a thermostat to come off as well. Oh, there's the thermostat. Okay, well, if I'm lucky, I shouldn't need to take the thermostat out. So now, as you can see, like, now we're at the piston. So if I had to take all those... like, if I had to take those things out, you see how hard it would actually be for me to get in there? Like, see, like, there's no way to really get an angle to get those rod caps out from on the engine stand. So this is exactly why I do it on the car still, and then it just makes it easier to pop these out. Okay, there we go. We are all disassembled except for the engine block and the thermostat because they're fine. So now what we're going to do is, if you go into the inventory, we're going to see all the parts we have and all the parts that look like shit. Now, some of these will repair, and some of these will not. So we're going to take a look at the car here, go into our car status. We know that the parts have to be a minimal condition of 79%. So we're going to repair everything to at least 80%, and if it can't be repaired, then we have to replace it. So we're going to go to our repair bench. Crankshaft bearing cap, 82%. That didn't sound good. Timing cover, there it is. And the water pump. And we're going to fix that one rod cap. And now everything is within where it's supposed to be. So now the next thing to do is we got to get rid of all the shit parts that we don't need. So goodbye starter, goodbye exhaust manifold, goodbye fuel pump, goodbye front exhaust section A, goodbye catalytic converter, goodbye clutch release bearing, pressure plate, clutch plate, flywheel, belt tensioner, idle roller A, crankshaft bearing cap, camshaft cap. Oh, there's 3 more of those boys. Another idle roller. Get rid of the oil filter. Cam gears, the one camshaft, the fuel filter, the engine head, and the crankshaft. Now, it's time to start putting this thing back together. So we're going to go into our shop, and we're going to go into our parts shop, and we're working on the engine. Now, we know we're going to need a new air filter anyways. Like, you know what? We're going to focus strictly on the engine, getting the parts that we need for the engine. So, the first thing we need is a crankshaft. We need a crankshaft, a camshaft, and we need cam gears. So, we're going to grab the 2 i3 cam gears right there. And we're going to grab the 1 i3 camshaft. And we know that we need 4 of these caps. So, we're going to grab those. And now our crankshaft. Now, is there anything else? We do need one of the crankshaft bearing caps, I believe. And that's it for now. We're gonna leave that for now, and we're gonna go to part mount. We're gonna put in the crankshaft, and we're gonna put in our pistons. Okay, so now we know that we do need an engine head, and it's engine head B. So let's go pick that boy up. What do we got here? Engine head BI3. There she is. And we're going to insert her right there. Now we can add our... Oh, first let's add in our spark plugs. We'll put the ignition coils in after. But we're going to add in our cam gear, our camshafts here. And put the caps on. Okay. So we got 2 of the brand new ones on that side. Let's get 2 of the brand new ones on this side, just so that way we're not putting all new on one side and then slightly used on the other side. Let's even it up a bit. So, there we go. Camshaft caps in place. Let's get our cam gears on. Get our serpentine belt A slipped back in place there. And our timing cover can get slipped back on. And now we can throw our engine head cover back into place. We're going to need a new exhaust manifold, I believe. Yep. However, we can put the ignition coils back in on top here. And then put the fuel rail back on. Get our intake manifold placed back in. Putting the throttle back on. And now we can put the crankshaft pulley. I don't remember. Do I need 2? Okay, I need both the idle roller A's. I knew I needed them, but I didn't know I needed both. Well, I knew I needed 2. I just didn't know if there was only 2 on. I thought there might have been a third. So we need the exhaust manifold. We know that much. We know we're going to need a fuel filter and a fuel pump, so we might as well grab those while we're passing them. What else do we need? Idle roller A2, so let's grab those, and we're going to get that inserted. Put on the alternator. Put on our water pump. And we can now put in the exhaust manifold. So now I believe we can put the fuel filter in too, but I believe that's it. I believe all we need now is the oil filter, and we should have all our parts for our engine and the starter. So we're just going to jump down. We're going to grab an oil filter, and we're going to grab a starter. And that should be all the parts that we need. Hopefully, I'm hoping at least. I believe it is. Because I believe I have all the rod caps and crankshaft bearing caps, and then the oil pan and idle roller A and serpentine belt just go right back in. So we're going to grab those last parts, and you know what? I am forgetting a part. I might as well grab the air filter that I know we're going to need too. So we're going to grab that. We're going to put the oil filter. Okay, now we're going to take the engine from the stand, and we're going to take the crane to install the engine back in. And now we can put the crane away. Go over to our air filter housing, and we're going to pop the top off by dealing with these stupid little clips that are nothing but a nuisance in my opinion. Like, my air filter housing in my car has screws. Like, it's screwed down. So I just pop out some screws and the whole thing lifts off. Now, take out the air filter. And now I'm going to go into part mount mode to put in the new filter. Put the cover back on. Deal with these nuisance of clips again. Okay. There we go. There we go. Now, the rest of the work is from underneath the car. So we're going to lift her back up. And again, I'm just going to start from the back. Just throwing the fuel pump back in there. Get that done. And now I'm going to... Now, before I get to doing the exhaust, I am going to do the underneath here and just get that done so I don't forget about it at all. So make sure we got 3 rod caps. Yep. We're going to make sure that we have our 2 crankshaft bearing caps. Yep, we're good. So put these boys back in place. Okay. Now we can finish the engine by putting... Okay, so that's got to go back on from the engine bay, so I got to lower the car for that part. So now we're good to put the transmission back. So now we have the gearbox already, but we know that we need a new clutch pressure plate, a new clutch release bearing, and a new flywheel. So we're going to grab those, and while we're here, we're also going to go into the exhaust and grab our catalytic converter and our front exhaust section A, if I can find it, for the i3. And now all our exhaust parts are good. So now it should just be assembling and being done with it. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to assemble everything. There we go. And put the gearbox back in. And now we're going to put the drive shaft back. We're going to put in the new catalytic converter, the new front exhaust section. Put in the drive axles. Put our tires back on. Get to the other side here. Front drive axle. Put a tire back in place. So now, the only thing I have to do is put that idle roller and serpentine belt back on, as well as put the starter back in, and then fill the car with oil. So what we're going to do now is come into the front here, and we're going to put that idle roller back on and put in the serpentine belt. And look, and we need a belt tensioner. I completely forgot about the belt tensioner. So we're going to go grab us a belt tensioner. There it is. And we're going to put it in place. Now the only thing left to do is to put the starter back on. Brand new starter, going to run nice and good. And we're going to fill the oil with Supoil Premium Motor Oil. And we are full. Close the hood. Lower the car. Now, final test. Let's see if she turns over. So we're going to move the car over to our garage entrance. And let's see if she turns over. Start the car. Nice. Perfect. Leave the car. Close the door. So, let's make sure I did everything. Go into car status. Car does not start. Starter's been replaced. The filters need replacing. They've been replaced. Timing needs replaced. Everything's been replaced. All the engine faults. We have found and replaced and fixed all engine faults. We have replaced the loud exhaust. And we have fixed the gears from slipping. This job is now done. We spent a total of $3,901 to get a total payout of $12,267. I'd say this was a job well done. I hope you enjoyed, and this was the Monday Mechanic. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you next week. This is TRC Borderline, signing out.